Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and happy Halloween, and also happy Diwali to everyone today. Drop in the comments where you're joining us from. And while you do this, I really wanted to welcome all of you to today's episode of um, Product Power Play, a special LinkedIn Live series where I sit down with industry leaders to have real candid conversations about all things product building and product leadership. And today I have a really special guest, Hanlin. Hi, Hanlin. Nice to have you here today.
Hi, Hosky.
We've been talking about it for months, and I am so excited we're finally doing this. And someone was joking the other day and said, are we going to dress up in our Halloween costume and talk about all the scary stories of product building and product leadership? I'm like, I don't know where the conversation is going to go. So
Why didn't we do that?
I know. I just remembered it, and I'm like, well, we'll see. We'll see how it and everything goes. But thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm just going to introduce myself very quickly, and then I will introduce Hanlon. And so, hi, everyone. I am Baski Mukherjee, and I'm the founder of PMDojo. And after more than 20 years of actually building products and being in product leadership role, I've experienced myself how scary and sometimes how intense the pressure is, especially for women as we are navigating our career and our life together, moving up in product leadership roles. And this has been one of those driving forces that made me leave a company that I deeply, deeply, deeply admire, like Atlassian, to start building PM Dojo, because I wanted us to tackle the barriers that women face as they're moving up in their career. And to be frank, it shouldn't take 100 years to be achieving workplace parity. And so I really wanted to tackle that from both skills as well as mindsets perspective. And so how do we do this? Whether our programs such as the Product Leadership Edge, which is specifically for women PMs, whether it's PM Dojo for teams, we are working to ensure that product leaders and product managers today who are working have the skills necessary to navigate this very interesting and complex space that we are in, especially in this market right now. I'm going to drop in the link for anyone who is interested to learn more, but let's get started with today's episode. And if anyone has any questions along the way, drop them in the comments. Hanlon and I will take and answer them throughout today's conversation. So let's meet Hanlon. I am so excited to introduce Hanlon to all of you. She is, I would describe it as a powerhouse product leader with over 15 years of product executive experience. She's been driving innovation at so many companies like ServiceNow, Workday, and currently at Airbnb. What is really amazing about Hanlon that struck me as I had my first conversation with her quite a few months ago was actually her human first and people first approach to leading teams. And that was one thing that really struck me, and I hope we can unpack that today. At Airbnb, Hanlin is leading digital product experiences and helping her team drive innovation and impact. She's also working on cutting edge technology such as AI. And I know that is top of mind for so many product managers and product leaders right now. So if you're looking to level up as a product leader, I hope you stay till the very end. And I know that there's lots of stuff happening with school and Halloween and candy and trick and treat. But thank you, everyone, for whoever is joining. And let's get this episode rolling. Welcome, Hanlon.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that you've joined us after a late night flight back home. So I really, really appreciate that. Um, so let's get started with the first question. You've led product for a very, very long time at all these amazing companies that are doing breakthrough when it comes to innovation. What has been maybe one or two things that actually contradicts with what you've believed from leading product teams or leading products? Has there been anything that has kind of contradicted with how you think or what you know today?
Uh, Actually, there are a couple things where very different from my original perspective when I transitioned to a product manager. So first of all, let me zoom back a little bit because my experience formulate how my perspective about product is, about people, about process. So I started my career at the Cisco as a software engineer as part of a product development cycle. Cisco gave me a very unique opportunity to switch job at the different functions with different roles. So I also played as customer escalation expert, which handles the post-deployment all escalations. Very stressful job, but I learned so much because many times we believe we are building this wonderful product. So this is how you use it. However, customers are so innovative. You can never control how customers will use your product. They are so creative in a way you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know it can be used like this. Of course, if anything happened, they were like, you fix it, right? So this is one way. And I also got opportunity to be a technical marketing engineer working closely with field enablement. So even before I transitioned to a product manager, you can see this is a pre-product, right? Sales enablement, product development itself, and post-deployment. You have this holistic end-to-end, also connected product success. For me, that formulate my view of what product success will look like. You don't control the actual users, you don't control the actual sales channels, but what you can manage is how you try your best to understand the problem your product can solve. So many times we are so familiar with this phrase that we start with why. But why means this million things with such a rich dimensions. How you understand why with what to truly listen to the problem. Sometimes customers, they don't even know their problems are, but you are responsible for that. So this is number one thing is, as a product manager, what you really can control. Second one is, if you look at my LinkedIn, I'm sure many people do already, seems like I have been in this cutting edge technology for over decades, right? I started my ML AI journey almost 10 years ago. But the more you're into the technology, the more I realize technology is not the center of the product management. The problem is technology is truly an enabler, right? It's an enabler only when I put that into my perspective. I myself is technologist. I love technology, but the more we are into the product management, the more mature we are. It's more critical how we think through things, how our perspective is. Then the technology will come along. Remember this, we already have an internet, wave, right? We have a mobile first wave. Now we have an AI first wave. What will be the next one? But the problem is always there. Users are always there. So many times we're thinking, okay, for us to start a product or start a company, we want to be the one who creates a category. We are familiar with the TAM, right? Total available market. Having the biggest pie in that TAM is not a huge success. It's a progressing. To create a different category is a huge success. That's what Airbnb did, right? That's what many companies did. So that's how the two things I changed my perspective from my original thought about product management.
I love this. I'm just going to summarize this because there were so many really, really helpful nuggets, I think, for anyone who's listening. And hopefully, I'm able to do justice to this, Hanlon. I think one thing you touched about was, and I talk about this a lot as well, is as PMs, it becomes so important to control the controllables
Yes,
because there are so many things that are outside of our control
correct.
even if you're doing everything. So it's really important to know what are some of the things that you can control and then kind of go and start pursuing. The second thing, I think it's huge what you say because of I think this belief that people have, like so many times I come across PMs who say, I want to become an AI PM. And I'm like, great. Do your customers care that you are an AI PM? Or does your average customer or average user, I'm saying average, do they care that their problems are getting solved with an AI? Or do they really care that their problems and pain points are getting solved and they're able to achieve their goals? So I think what you were talking about is that technology is there, be an maybe AI enabled product manager, where you're using AI or the next wave of whatever that latest technology is to actually solve the problem better and improve those experiences for your users. Like go back to those first principle thinking and solve the real user problem that helps also your business to move forward.
You summarized it better than my original message.
Oh no, 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 I wouldn't do that. But thank you. I think, yeah, someone just mentioned on the comments, like this is the human-centered perspective. I think we just overcomplicate, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Um, can you, as we're kind of talking about this, I want to like maybe zero in on this topic a little bit more because there is so much of this shiny object syndrome right now, right? We know like PMs are getting worried, like if they don't have AI, they're not going to get hired, they're not going to find a job, or they're not going to get promoted. Companies are thinking, well, if we don't have AI, we're not going to get funded. I mean, driving in the Bay Area, every single billboard, every single thing is about AI, every single thing, right?
For
So I
sure.
want to zero in on this a little bit, Hanlin. Can you maybe give one or two examples of how you and your team think about this human centered approach when, let's say, you feel that pressure, like, hey, we need to use AI?
Number one thing is AI, especially Gen AI, opened amazing door for us. I feel like that was the hype we are experiencing. Gen AI opened the door with lots of excitement, lots of unknown too. So that's why people get into that, seeing what we can do. I actually appreciate that hype because people are exploring the possibilities. So for me, that's almost very, very important. We're not rejecting AI. We see AI everywhere. That's the excitement people have. How we process that excitement. Again, back to the first principle practice. What we focus on. And AI actually brings so much different new potential solutions. That's why it's super exciting. I also realized that the uncertainty of technology, the uncertainty of being product managers. So it should be our advantage to see, okay, this is so much going on, but this is so much opportunity for us to explore. So for me, it's always mindset comes first, then skills. Because we're not here saying, you know what, because of the AI, either we want to find something that AI can solve, or we are nervous because AI might take our job. Those two mindsets, I feel like, are less relevant for product managers. In my definition, the product managers who are genuinely curious about how things work, how AI works. If you really dive into your problem, you see whether the AI can help you. So for me, the short answer is absolutely yes. Not because the Gen AI different models or different, the performance or hallucination, all those things is the Gen AI fundamentally change how people interact with system. If this behavior is fundamentally changed, then everything needs to be changed accordingly. How you define your software, how you define the user experience, how you define your success without the certain flow that is deterministic, right? So literally everything is going to be changed, but we are part of it. Product managers are leading the changes.
I love this, and I can see that passion in how you're saying it. You really believe in this, and I'm of the 100% of the same opinion. I think it excites me. It excites me when, I see little kids kind of jumping into this as well and trying to feel like they can build stuff, and it's so easy now. It really excites me when I see people who might be non-technical, who otherwise would have never been able to do this, today are able to kind of spin up and build products and able to see a lot of things. Like, I think it's the abstraction that just starts getting simpler and simpler and simpler as technology moves ahead,
I
right?
really love that aspect because the Gen AI empowered ordinary people to do an ordinary things, right? For example, I heard this, I think it's early 2023 when Gen AI suddenly become such a visible, wave, right? Is the hottest programming language now is English. It really depends on how you articulate your thinking to make system work with your way. So everybody becomes a creator. So that's my perspective, right? We right now we have a even for the marketplace like Meta or Airbnb, we have a suppliers, then we have a consumers, right? But for me, Gen AI allows everybody to be a creator. But product managers are positioned as creator. Use AI as your own tool, experience that, then you can think about how use that to solve the problem because it solves your problem first,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Love it.
yeah,
Love it.
for me,
There's a question. Sorry, go ahead, Hanlon. Sorry about that.
no, for me, my product vision is really the harmony between the AI and human. So it is the harmony between those two for any solutions. But I don't think AI will replace any agent, even though we see the contact center revolution. I don't believe AI will replace any of us, even though some people say product managers are no longer needed. I just feel like if we lose job, we will lose job to those people with AI empowerment. We're losing job to ourselves. So again, mindset comes first, then everything else will come naturally.
This is such an important point because I remember my conversation with someone that I was working with just a few weeks ago, and she was kind of feeling very uncertain. And I kind of just said, and of course, it is over dramatization, but I said, many years ago, there was this fear, and it was happening where a lot of the jobs were going to the low cost jurisdictions, outsourcing.
Yeah.
Right now, similar thing is happening. And with technology, of course, cost starts decreasing. And so this is where I think the mindset becomes so important. I talk about mindset so much because unless and until we are able to figure out, and especially as PMs, okay, so this is now an added context in the problem space. How might I solve, right? How might I skill up? How might I actually become that place where I might be different than the version that I was maybe 6 months ago. So I absolutely love it. There's a question that's come up. What are some of the things that, I'm just going to look at it. What are some of the things that PMs can control? And they wanted to kind of get your perspective on that.
Okay, the most important things PM can control is how you perceive and understand the problem, right? That's the first principle. And problem understanding comes from different ways: the data, the customer conversation, your intuition. So those three are equally important. And sometimes your intuition is very important. We like to see PMs wants to control priority, but priority is not even 100% controlled by you, right? You can optimize it for different purposes at a different time. But the core is how confident you can understand the problem. Then how you can decompose a complex problem to the smaller component so you can tackle them individually but connect them seamlessly. So for me, yeah, you get to understand the problem, but that's a forever challenge for every single product manager, regardless what title they are, how experienced they are. Every problem is different. So for me, understanding the problem is our forever fun job, number one to do. There are some hard skills we need to practice. One is decomposition. How can you decompose a problem into a smaller one? Because you will never get the full resource to solve the big one. If you can decompose them and prioritize them and identify the value of each one and find a way to connect them, then I feel like you're on a winning path to be a great product manager.
Love this. Love this, because if you don't decompose or decouple,
Yeah,
then you'll just be stuck. Or you are going to end up trying to solve such a mammoth of a problem that it becomes more of this political optics, getting buy-in and all of that, and you can't just move forward, right?
yeah,
I love that analogy, Hanlin. There's another question that's
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
And also, this is the way you can demonstrate your execution. You can demonstrate the value. You can earn the trust. You can pave your own successful paths, not career only, but also the product. Also, simplify your mind, because otherwise, we are in a complex and sophisticated world. You have to find simplicity is the key.
It's a really important point. And regardless of how chaotic everything is, or ambiguous, or unclear, our job is to bring clarity to everyone in the room. And I think what you just talked about helps to do that.
Yes.
Love it. You talked a little bit about intuition. And so I want to unpack that topic a little bit. There is human intuition, and then you have insights, whether they're coming from data or whether now you're using AI to be generating those insights faster. How do you balance insight, human insight, and the insight coming from data that's flat in our face? How do you balance that? And can you maybe give an example from your career or maybe your team where you've had to do that?
So intuition is the differentiator from great product managers to a good product managers. Good product managers can analyze the data based on data insight to do decision properly. But especially if you're in enterprise SaaS domain, many times you don't have enough data for you to make decision. So intuition becomes very, very critical. And intuition, for example, I use, let me find, this is a true example. So that's a part of the channel strategy, right? We wanted to understand, okay, we have this many channels that customers can reach out to our support to get the proper support, whenever they need it, whatever they want it, right? So we have this, the data insights about, what channels they use the most, what percentage they use, right? Then interesting data point once we got was, you know what? We have over 70% users use our phone channel. We have a very little, only less than 5% users use our live chat channel. So our customers are making decisions. They have their preferences because phone channel, they get the fastest support. They talk to the people directly. So we want to optimize phone channel by adding features like caller ID or callback or scheduled callback, so we can make our customers even happier. Sounds wonderful. But at the moment, we were like younger generations, we know, like my daughter never call me if she can text me. Why they change behaviors when they reach out to us? Instead of texting, chatting, they are phone calling Airbnb. So you have intuition based on your experience, your understanding of industry. But data tells you something different. Then what we do, or like, let's dive one more step, right? To see for those 5% chat users, why they choose chat. Guess what? The result was fascinating because we have a special setting for the chat. Only certain contact reasons can be managed by chat. You think about it. What can you do with that situation, right? So the intuition is based on your own understanding, your perspective, and also the context and situational context at that time, right? So when we say, hey, we have 100 people rate Hamlet, they got 100 Hamlet. Everybody gets the unique one. The data actually force us to think from different angle, having the right angle to ask questions to help us to clear the mind. Maybe, phone channel is the right channel for unclear issue, emergency. People just pick up the phone. They want to get immediate support. But it's really situational. So how you practice your mind to see the data. So I have a very simple practice. Every number you put on your slide, you need to, dive it into different angle for that specific number. A number becomes what input is the number, what output of the number, right? So if you have any number there, just expect any questions from you before you even share the number with the people. So that's actually the practice.
It's really powerful because it's almost like you are doing a mental exercise yourself to
Yeah.
find gaps in your own argument.
Yeah.
So that you can better be prepared. You're kind of looking at it from different angles because number is just one dimension. There can be a whole bunch of other things associated with it. This is very, very powerful, Henlin. And so I'm sure people are kind of wondering now, how do I build this intuition? Maybe I am, do I have to stay in the same industry or domain to build intuition? Like, does it mean I cannot change industry or domains? You've moved across so many different industries. People might be thinking, do I need to, will intuition come once I have like 20 years of experience? Like, how do you build this intuition? What has worked for you?
I love that question because, of course, intuition will be strengthened by your industry experience, by number of years you're doing certain type of a project, because experience matters, right? More importantly, I feel like intuition comes from your intellectual curiosity more. I value product managers from almost 3 dimensions. And number 1 is intellectual curiosity. Because intellectual curiosity introduce the diversity approach. We were talking about diversity, but diversity is not the process you're hiring. Diversity is how you push yourself to think differently. And diversity, as a part of a curiosity, force us to accept different opinions. Sometimes we argue perfectly fine. We don't agree with each other perfectly fine. But it's how you do a self-reflection a lot. But because you have to intentionally do that for yourself. You made a mistake. You are dealing with difficult people, but you have to force yourself to think about what you have gained from that people. You can learn something from anyone. When I say anyone, literally anyone. You like that person or you hate that person, but you can learn something from that. So intuition comes from so many different things. If you're generally a curious people, you would be amazed how much intuition you might have because that's a different you, right? And also, product managers should read lots of random things. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm the product manager. I only read, how can I be a great product manager? I'm a technology empowered product manager, so I only read how AI can help us. For me, I love, Reddit, for example, for random topics. I also read some strange books. Like, okay, this year, if I have to say that, the most provoking book I read for 2024 is Personalized Law.
Sorry, what was the name again?
Personalized Law.
Huh. Okay.
When I got that book from Amazon, only 3 reviews. It's not bestseller ever. Only 3 reviews, and the book was written by a law professor. But you read that. The book was very well written, very easy to understand. I know nothing about law, but I can read it. Because they give you different thinking. What is outcome-driven law? When we're saying we're going to introduce hyper-personalized experience through Gen AI, it will influence every single industry, including law. But what it means. So that's how I think you can build your intuition more than just experience. Otherwise, people will say, I don't have a 2 years experience. I don't have an intuition. That's wrong.
It's amazing. Amazing. So I think what I'm hearing here, and I hope again I'm going to be doing justice because there was so many good stuff here, and I'm going to share the link to that book. I think one thing is I think this reflection piece, introspective piece, and you kind of reminded me when you were talking about that, you reminded me of something that one of my first managers, like years ago, because I was like, I came to this country, like I gotta be like the fastest, the quickest, gotta work the hardest, otherwise I lose my visa and I get deported. Like I was just so much on the do that she wanted me to, she said, book a 15 minutes every Friday in your calendar. I don't care when you do it. Don't do it at your lunchtime, but do it at the end of the day, where you reflect and think about situations that made you uncomfortable, things that you read in the room, things you observed about people that you worked with, a customer that you talked with, anything. And she said, I guarantee you that if you start doing this as a habit, you will start to figure out your own blind spots. And it was like really hard to find that 15 minutes to do because something or the other always comes up. And so it's now, all these years, I haven't done that every Friday, but I tend to do that every other week or maybe even now once a month. But I do it as an exercise and it's been like mind opening. So I think what you're talking about is taking some time to ask some of these questions to yourself is actually going to help you build that intuition as opposed to just looking at data on face value, right? So I think that was that one piece that you talked about. I think the second piece, if I'm understanding it correctly, Hanlon, I think you're talking about that situational awareness or EQ, to kind of really using that to start kind of thinking about what you're feeling, what your gut check is, what does that compass tell you, as opposed to just going by what you see, what you hear. And I think the third thing is like read all kinds of stuff. Be open to all kinds of insights, information, knowledge to challenge your own way of thinking as well. Did I summarize that?
Challenge yourself, enrich yourself, right? Only if you have so many different thoughts, you actually be amazed how open you can be, then how much you actually appreciate difference. Sometimes even the argument. Yeah, because that's the way I actually appreciate people who argue with me. But that means they have courage to share what they believe in, right? It kind of forced me to think differently from my own standard, right? So I used to be a person, if I'm not happy, I just be silent. I'm not happy, but I just don't tell you why I'm not happy. I start changing because my husband is the way. If he didn't get what he needs, he just force you to talk with him until he gets what you need. Why he didn't get it? At the beginning, it was so tough. I'm like, just leave me alone. But now I actually appreciate that because that communication forceful communication forced me to think differently.
So tell me a little bit. So when someone argues with you, what do you feel like intuitively, like talking about intuition? Do you actually get annoyed or you're like, yes, another argument, like this has made my day? Like what's going on in your headspace?
The first point was, what did I do wrong? I'm sorry. That was the first intuition I got. Always, I don't know why. Always, what did I do wrong? I don't know whether it's good or bad. Then we're like, okay, now what? Because when you say, what did I do wrong? If you do self-reflection enough, you can do very quick replay, right? This is what. Maybe not. Now what? One thing I feel like, especially for women, typically we were educated as a collaborator. So that was first intuition was natural to many of us. I believe, what did I wrong? Right? Then second is, because of we were educated in that way, if we have a little bit thick skin to separate what people argue with us from argue with us on me. We are arguing on the things. There's nothing to do with me. So then you'll feel so much comfortable with all kinds of situations.
It's extremely hard, right? Because yeah, it's extremely hard, and I think, but I think what you're kind of saying here, Hanlon, is so powerful again because you are trying to separate yourself. And again, it comes back to your first point when we started today's conversation was what are some of the things you can control? And what you can control again comes back to, well, are you able to again decompose, dissect, decouple what is happening? What is the topic that you are disagreeing with or someone's disagreeing with you versus it kind of making it about, me personally. But then I think one thing that I wanted to kind of ask you is how do you then distinguish between, sometimes when you reflect, it kind of almost becomes counterintuitive where you start reflecting so much that it kind of takes you to a dark place and you start asking all of these questions like maybe I didn't do something enough or maybe it is all my fault. How do you know when to stop the reflection? Like I'd love to know, what is your strategy?
Okay, overthinking, right?
Yes.
And I overthink a lot too. I admit that. Overthinking brings me some level of stress, anxiety. However, I also think be able to overthink is our strength. So, because through that overthinking process, you play so many different roles. However, there are some principles while I'm doing overthinking. Okay. Number one thing is I naturally don't expect people or everyone will like me. That's just not my type. You don't like me, fine. But you have to respect my work. That's very, very important. Otherwise, overthinking will get me into this dark loop. Why I say this, they didn't like me. Why I say this, they do this, they didn't like me. That's not the thing, right? Everybody made mistake. Everybody made a stupid mistake. But it's the mistake is not me. The mistake is I'm making the mistake on the thing. Yeah, I sucked. I did it. It's already over, right? Yeah, when you're overthinking, you focus on what you can improve or what you can gain, not focus on what stupid mistake you did. Yes, I know that's a stupid mistake. If I have a chance, this is what I'm going to do differently. But I can never, travel back to redo that, right? So I have to appreciate in a way how I was raised. By the way, I was raised as a boy. So I have a daughter. So I can see the difference. Because my daughter is very, shy, smart, considerate, want people to like her, not directly from me, from all the commercials, all the, the games, all the Barbie plays, right? You want to be pretty, you want to be, I was raised as a boy. I did. So mentally, it's very subtle. The difference is so subtle, but it's so critical. So I keep telling to my daughter, right? Do whatever make you feel good. People don't need to like you and not, it just, especially I feel like being PM, you have to be collaborative, but sometimes you also have to be driven, say, enough is enough. This is my decision. Let's move on. I can be wrong, but if I'm wrong, if we execute fast enough, we can realize it's wrong, so we can correct. Be able to say that takes courage, especially for collaborative people. It's not always easy because we want to hear from different people. But at the same time, we have to give us that, I have a thick skin. I made a mistake, but let's move on. I almost feel like, for me, everything is a product. Every product is a platform. That's my product again, including ourselves.
Yeah. It's a broad ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of see what plays. It's like I think when I run into all of these messy challenges, a lot of the times I kind of like just zone out and build an ecosystem map. If it's like a really messy and really kind of niggling problem, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to try to see what is happening, because otherwise I just make it all about myself. And then I'm like, oh, I could have always done it differently. And then so and so wouldn't have said that. And I think that's helpful, exactly to the point that you were talking about. I cannot go back and undo it. We have to live with it, and hopefully that mistake was not an expensive mistake. But most things, like, you can kind of retrofit it and do it like differently, and move on from that. So that's really, really powerful, very powerful. Um, I'd like to ask you another question, and that is about, I'm going to change a little bit, shift a few things. So we hear a lot about success stories, right? Everyone's coming up with like, hey, this is what has worked for me. These are the 3 things or 5 things I've done, and that has helped me get into this executive leadership role. Or these are the 2 or 3 things that I did, and we massively, like, had a huge success with the product. I think a lot of times we don't see a lot of the failures and the mishaps that have happened leading up to that, and we don't talk about it. And so I want to chat a little bit, if you're comfortable, Hanlin, where you can maybe share a personal example of something that you were really trying to push through, or you really wanted, either career wise or maybe within a product that you were building or leading a team, but it did not go the way it was expected. How did you recover from that? What did you do? What went on in your head as you were thinking about, when things just fell flat?
Uh, I'm going to share an example. I'm still recovering, so it's a real time example. And the mistake is, the mistake was, for me, it's very profound because I have a self confidence that, I'm a great product manager. I have desire to be a great leader, empower people. In any company, any corporation, there are always people dynamics, right? We learn that, you need to be politically savvy in a good way, because you have to read different leaders or different circles. They may have a special connections, right? Then when you're trying to push something, sometimes you push the wrong button. I pushed the wrong button. Then the impact is quite significant because I need to spend a lot of energy. Overthinking is one way, but another way is how you make up from your mistake or stupid mistake, or it just naturally you didn't know all the context about the button, but you pushed it because you want to find the way you believe at that time is best for your team or best for you. So a little bit more context is we have a new group of leaders coming from a different company. So they bring in a different culture, right? The culture works very well at previous company. Then we are shifting a little bit towards that culture as well. And within the culture, Airbnb is very collaborative. Sometimes I feel like we have an overly collaborative. Then we have a little bit more top-down culture, finding a balance in the middle. Then for me, I was like, okay, my team cannot function in this way. I want to protect my team so who can stay focused. So I just say, don't do it. If you want to do this, you need to change A, B, C, D. What I underestimate is how powerful the connections are. Right? Connections, if you are in the right connection circle, you can make things so easy, but it's not always the case, right? Then how you read through those, even you know a little bit, but you didn't get a full context. So that's how I push the wrong button. And I'm still recovering. Not always easy, but all I believe is, number one thing is, yes, okay, the button was not exactly right. The next time when I push button like this, what buffer I need to leave for myself to back off when I need it. So again, maybe this is not the best way for my team, but what is the way I can make my team navigate through this? Third, yes, connection is really important. It is really, really important, right? And with that, I feel like, okay, this is not necessarily the best empowering experience I have, but I still appreciate leadership. I still learn a lot. I feel like at the end is really how we do a self-assurance. We have to believe in ourselves, right? Then how you believe in yourself is really, you're open-minded, you're curious, so you can do lots of exploration. And through that exploration, you do lots of reflection. Only through those you actually build your self-assurance. You believe in yourself, no matter what happened around you. Not some mistake like you are manageable, some mistakes may not be. But that's not the end of the world, right?
So I'm remembering so many instances where I pushed the button which I shouldn't have. And, like now in the grand scheme of things, like, okay, well, kind of didn't make big difference. But I think at that moment of time, it was a very conflicting period of my career. Like I was just having like stuff just ringing, and like I was watching everything just play in front of my eyes. I wanted to kind of ask a couple more questions on that. Um, I think the connection piece, the circle piece is really important because there are these very interesting power structures that just happen. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't call power structures in a bad way. I think anytime you bring in two people, there is some sort of a political stuff happening. We see this in families and our personal lives. You also see this in our workforce. I mean, that's how I like to, my rational brain, I try to. At the moment, of course, when it's emotional, I don't see it that way. But Hanlin, I think the thing that I wanted to ask you here is people might be thinking that, oh, if I need to be in a circle, then I have to start playing the politics game. What would you tell them? Is it politics? Do you have to play the game to be in the circle? Like, do you have to be in the circle if it's so important?
being a circle actually is not what it looks like, right? Because my approach was, first of all, I believe in humanity, even though I'm not part of circle, but I truly believe everyone in their circle, their intention is good. That's number one thing. Right. Number two thing is, for me, is I'm not super great at building relationship. I'm good at delivering things. So how you want people perceive you first is getting things done. Give any shit to Hanlin, Hanlin can deliver. So building that personal branding first is your reputation. Then people value you. Being a part of a circle gives you additional advantage. However, if my purpose is I want to try everything to build that connection so I can be part of a circle, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But for me, it's more like my goal is not be in part of a circle. My goal is for the people in the circle value me. So maybe it can be part of, maybe it cannot, but it doesn't really matter. Because at the end, we want to deliver something that's valuable for our customers, for our businesses, right? Also, you need to treat yourself as a product, bring value to whoever.
I love this. I absolutely love this. And this is something so much we talk in our Product Leadership Edge program as well, because I think a lot of women, and maybe this is true for men. I mean, I'm pretty, yes, it is for men, because my husband is in product and we often talk about this a lot. So, again, generalizing, but definitely with the women, I think there is a lot of pressure that I have to build this relationship. I think what I always tell them, if I were to remember my conversation from last week, is like, it starts like the basic table stake is that you have to be really, really good at what you do. Like, you have to be the best of the best, your version of best, right?
Yes.
Because again, you can keep on improving. Because at the end of the day, if you're not bringing value, then it doesn't matter what politics you do and who you take out for dinner or who you're having all of these sidebar conversations. Like, it really doesn't matter. It may not, you may not feel like that it's deteriorating and it doesn't impact you, but in the long term, at the end of the day, you getting promoted is a business decision. Plain and simple.
Right, what your standard is.
Yes, right.
You want to be.
And 100%. And I think the second thing that you talked about, which is also one of my favorite topics, is about how do you build that internal and external credibility? Because in tech, it is such a fluid space. I remember many years ago, I actually ended up having a really not so positive relationship with one of my managers. And I eventually left. He left. And 7 years later, I was interviewing at a company, and lo and behold, the final round ended up happening with the same manager. I didn't get the role, but we have since become friends. And I understand why we ended up, in that weird situation back in the day, because I think with that reflection exercise, I've also realized that it took two of us to do that dance of tango. And what was my role in contributing to that dance? Like, it wasn't just all his fault. I was contributing and I was pushing certain buttons that I should not have, or maybe done things slightly differently. And for whatever reason, I wasn't able to communicate that. He didn't communicate that. And we ended up, and, I lost a great opportunity 7 years later. So I think, what you're talking about is that credibility is so important. It's not about just hitting the ball out of the ballpark once a while. Like, you have to have, it needs to be consistent, where your reputation becomes like, hey, you are someone, you could be given the hardest of the problems, you will be able to figure it out and get it done, right?
Yeah. So for me, that's most important for us to grow, right? Because, we are moving from one company to another one. We're moving industry from one to another. Then what keeps us be self-empowered, self-motivated, and assured is our inner confidence about what we can do, what we can deliver, right? Reputation and is one thing we build for us to get promoted, but reputation is also something we want to build for ourselves. I think that's even more important because many times things might happen, people may perceive differently. Also, although I'm believing, perception is everything, but not perception sometimes is not what you control, right? What we can control is we can make sure under any circumstances, we keep learning, we keep improving, be a better product manager, be a better people's leader, be a better ourselves. Then the rest we can't control. What you can control. Back to first principle, right? Do whatever on what you can control.
I absolutely love this. And I hope people who are listening to us today, this is all very hard. And I think it comes back to your mindset. Like it has to start with the mindset because otherwise it's just so easy to kind of feel like, oh my God, like I'm in this weird situation. I've felt this. I've struggled with this for like years. It's not easy. It's so much easier to say it's someone else's problem. Someone else has done it in this way. And poor me, I'm in this situation right now. It takes, I think it takes a lot of effort. Like I always kind of talk a little bit about my 10-year-old where he comes up with these little things that he's learning in school. And when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense because he says, work it out. You have to figure out how to work it out with someone that you're not able to work. You don't have the luxury to not be able to work it out. Like he's like, I cannot change the person that I've been matched up with. Like I have to figure out to work it out. And so when so and so annoys me, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ignore. I'm not going to let it. I'm going to be that oil, you can just kind of flow through. And I'm like, that's such a great mindset. Like for 10-year-old, I hope I knew that. So for so long in my professional career where I just clung to that negative thing that had happened. I love everything that you shared, Hanlin, today. I think one question that I wanted to ask you here, and I see quite a few people have asked here as well, is companies, teams are struggling to integrate AI in their product strategy in a very meaningful way. And I know we talked about it a little bit, but I was hoping you could maybe give us some tangible examples from what you've seen. And what they mean by this is AI kind of solving a real problem, or are we just trying to kind of chase some shiny object? Because a lot of the times PMs and product leaders are hearing, hey, so and so our competitor has AI. We have to kind of have AI. Otherwise, that's it, like no one's going to even think about us. How, as a product leader, how do you react? What do you do when you get told this? We need to have AI. Find a way how we can bring AI into our product suite.
So two dimensions. One is why AI is in such a hype. Because people see potential of the AI, right? Can be a solution. So that is the the first, right? The second is back to individual product domain. What you analyze your problem, because right now AI is a different way. Maybe it's a new way to solve the problem. What value? When we say value to the customers, how they use it. So part of a design to make sure your AI strategy is the integrated strategy with the problem understanding, with the UI design, because UI feature adoption actually is not as straightforward as we think. We give you something AI, then you just use it. No, customers don't use that way, right? But how can you actually make that part of your brainstorming in my way, right? Do AI technologies give us new possibilities? Yes. How you explore that to get into tangible value, that's case by case. Sometimes you'll feel like, oh, it's a shining object only because we get so much visibility. Everybody wants to be part of it. But for you, it's really to understand, with the combination of data and intuition, to truly understand the problem and to see how AI use it. Even AI can solve a problem. We do see that case. We know it's a huge value, but we are still experiencing a tough situation. How can we make sure our users use it? Then how can we collect the feedback? Right? So value is the entire value chain. It's not just, okay, I give you something AI, so everything will come through naturally. No. So operational rigor actually is very critical for product success, for your customer value realization. So as a product leader, you need to think through that end to end. Not just, okay, we give you a feature which is AI enabled, that's it. No, it's a starting point. Now the end.
It comes back to a lot of the things that you've been talking about. Decouple the problem, understand the problem, connect it seamlessly with what the bigger picture is.
Yeah.
Build that intuition, work from first principle, reverse engineer the ask. It's the same thing if it was not in the AI world and you were working in a traditional company and someone from the senior up has come and said, we need to build this feature. Well, as a PM, you could project manage and build it and execute it. Or as a product manager, you could reverse engineer and really understand what is the ask and what is the why behind the ask and how, what problem are we solving? How does it move the business forward? I don't think it's any different in the AI space.
No difference. It's just, like I say, AI is just another technology enabler, right? That you need to maximize and leverage this technology. And this technology is amazing.
Yep, absolutely. And I know we are just over the hour. And so I did see some more questions. And folks, for some of the questions that we haven't been able to cover, I will share some resources. I'm going to share the link to the book that Hanlin mentioned. I'll also share some of the resources for PMs to start kind of figuring out some of the AI pieces, how maybe some of the non-technical folks or even the technical folks can actually figure out. So I'll share some of those resources in the comments. But Hanlin, again, thank you so much. I absolutely loved every moment of this conversation with you. And thank you again, everyone, for joining. We do, stay in touch and, so that you don't miss out our next LinkedIn Live series. We kind of, again, have these very real, candid, conversational style chats where we can actually unpack some of these topics. And again, Hanlin, again, thank you so much. Happy Halloween. Hopefully you have lots of candies, or maybe not.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody who joined us today too. Yeah.
Thank you. And again, happy Diwali and happy Halloween, everyone. Have an amazing, amazing rest of the day.